Happy Friday and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and today it is time for my favourite time of the month, balancing the books. Usually I am a lot more grumpy and resentful when I start this, but spoiler alert, I know that I did really, really well this month. So, welcome to a masterclass in how to balance the books. Super quick run through for anyone who's never seen this before. I set this up last year as a way to stop my TBR from growing so much. So every month, the amount of books that came onto my TBR had to equal the ones that came off. Now I've made it even harder. They're going down by 5 every single month. That's all you need to know. Let's do it. So at the beginning of June, I started with 52 unread books on my TBR, which means that we have to get that number down to 47 in order to complete the game. However, little caveat. At the end of last month's Balancing the Books video, I was stuck on which book to give to charity, The Humans or Light Between Oceans. So I left it to a vote and got really mixed responses. Both of these books had some people that absolutely loved them, some people that absolutely hated them. So I will decide what I'm going to do at the end of this video, but for now, let's up that I technically started with 53 books at the start of this month because I hadn't yet given away either one of those, they were on standby. Then let's look at the extra books that came onto my TBR last month. From work, I was given proofs of Flawed, which was written by 7 authors, 7 UK YA authors, and The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart by Holly Ringland, who's an Australian writer, and this is a really beautiful book all about the healing language of flowers. But I managed to read both of these books and really enjoyed both of them in the month of June, so that number goes back down and stays at 53. I barely accepted any ARCs from publishers this month because I am really committed to the cause now and I already had a stack of ARCs that I had to read, so it was a bit overwhelming. There was only one that I did accept, and that's because I love Julia McAllister. That was her latest thriller, No Further Questions, which is about 2 sisters, one of whom is babysitting the other sister's baby when it dies in her care, and it's about the court case that comes out of that. Absolutely gripping, as always with Julia McAllister's books. I did read that one, so we are still safely at 53. And then some fun presents I got this month. I got I Hate Everyone But You by Gabby Dunn and Alison Raskin, whose YouTube channel I absolutely love, just between us. I think these two are great. This one I got from Kel's Corner because I won book battles when I was on it. So I was allowed to pick any book from Book Depository and I chose this one. And yes, I have read this one, so our total is still staying pretty neutral. And I really liked it. The 2 characters in here are based on Gabby and Alison themselves, and I've watched their YouTube channel so much that I was just reading it kind of in their voices and picturing them, and I just thought it was a lot of fun. And I love books that are about female friendship above anything else. And then finally, another present I got was from Emma Tobias. She came to stay with me when she was over in England and she brought me this copy of Strong Poison by Dorothy L. Sayers, which is a murder mystery and looks a lot of fun. This one, however, I have not yet read, so that number is getting even higher. We're up now on 54. So, can we get that back down to 47? Let's see, shall we? I feel like my whole demeanour is just a massive spoiler that I know that I crushed this month. Okay, extra books that I read this month, other than the ones we've already mentioned. I read Us Against You by Fredrik Backman, which is the sequel to Beartown, my absolute favourite book of last year, and it was fine. I was very disappointed because I didn't love it as much, but it wasn't bad, and probably if I hadn't loved Beartown as much, I would have thought it was a really great book. But it just wasn't in the same league. I thought it was a little bit too sentimental, a little bit pushing too hard on the kind of emotionally manipulative side, whereas the Beartown struck that really perfect balance of making me cry a lot and making me have so many feelings, rage and sadness and happiness and everything. And I feel like possibly because he knew it had that effect on people last time, he was now trying to recreate it, and it was just a little step too far. Plus it just wasn't as gripping a story, I guess. But he's still a beautiful writer and I loved the chance to spend more time in this character's world. I read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, read this for my book club. Oh my god, it was one of the best books that I've ever read. I was really, really reluctant to read it because it's so long and I heard it was so sad and I just didn't think that I wanted to read it. But actually I loved it and I feel like those characters are going to stay with me for the rest of my life. It was just absolutely beautiful. It could have been a little bit shorter. The beginning was very slow. It took me like almost 200 pages to get into it. But once I was into it, I was in. I'm there forever now. I read The Liar's Room by Simon Lelich, which is a thriller. It's basically all set in one room in a therapist's office. A patient comes in and essentially holds her hostage, and it turns out that he is connected to her in some way, to the therapist that is. I was in a big reading slump after reading A Little Life, because when you read something that's that well written and that powerful, and also that long, so you're kind of so inhabiting that world, it's really hard to read anything else. Anything else I picked up, I just felt like the world isn't as strong, I can't get into it as much, I don't care as much. So what I thought is I just needed to read something a little bit trashy, that it just didn't matter if it wasn't that good. So that's what The Liar's Room was for me. Not to be book snobby about it, it was a perfectly fun book, but it wasn't great. I gave it like a 3 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It was what I needed. And I also read The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay, which I also absolutely loved. I feel like that and A Little Life are kind of tied first place at the moment for my favourite books of the year. Such rich characters that you just feel like you know them and you love them and you just want them to be okay. Honestly, can't rave enough about both of them. So, that brings that down to 50, but I haven't yet talked about the books that I DNF'd. And there were quite a lot of them this month. I had a lot of arcs to read, and partly probably due to my reading slump after A Little Life, and also I was just feeling really brutal because I had such a long TBR this month, I was just throwing them all off my TBR left, right and centre, and it felt great. I started reading a thriller called Now You See Her and decided that it just wasn't interesting or original. Soz, that one was gone. I started reading All These Beautiful Strangers. I think that one probably would have been a really, really fun YA thriller if that's what you're into. But after a few chapters, I was like, that's not really what I'm into. It's not what I want to read. So that one went. I started reading The Lost Letters of William Woolf, which I think was probably a really sweet, moving book, but it was trying too hard to be sentimental, and there were certain chapters that I just didn't care about. So that one went. I started reading The Possible World, which had a wonderful opening, so gripping, but then very quickly I realised it was going to take a very strange supernatural turn, and not interested in that, so that one went. And finally I started reading The Widower's Notebook by Jonathan Sandhofer, and this one I don't want to say anything bad about. I think it's probably a completely beautiful book. His writing is amazing. I started reading it and was very moved by it, but I realised that despite it being a wonderfully moving book, it's not something that I want to read. I think it would have been just too sad the whole way through. Memoir isn't really a genre that I'm interested in, and I didn't get very far in it, so really don't want to say anything bad about it, don't take anything that I say as judgment on this book. I just didn't want to read it. Which means that on the 1st of July, which is today, I am starting the month with 45 books on my TBR. My goal was 47, so I'm fucking nailing it. So, let's go back to those 2 books I was supposed to be choosing between. I, last month, needed to get rid of 1 extra book, and it was supposed to be either The Humans or The Light Between Oceans. And even at the start of this video I hadn't decided what I was going to do. I now feel like I've made up my mind. Might be a little bit controversial. I'm not going to get rid of either of them. And the reason for that is purely superficial reason, which is that right now I'm on 45. That's such a nice round number, and it means that if I keep going down by 5 every month, it'll be really nice numbers every month, and I'll always be able to remember what I'm aiming for instead of having to look it up. So what I'm going to say is that I can keep those books on the condition that they both go onto my July TBR. So by the end of this month, I do have to have either read them or tried them and DNF'd them. I can't just keep hanging on to them forever. I hope you guys will agree that you think that's fair, if only just to preserve the beauty of our nice round numbers. So give this video a thumbs up if you are liking the Balancing the Books series, and leave me a comment below with anything that you have given away this month. I honestly am still in shock. I can't believe that I haven't had to end up giving something away. I always end up at the end of every one of these videos, like trawling my bookshelf in a panic for things to give away. But I don't have to, because I just read them all. Feeling very happy, so please keep me in this happy mood by subscribing to my channel if you're not already. I put up videos every single week, and I would love to see you next time. Bye!